Marvel just released the fourth film version of the Fantastic Four, ironically, but did they finally get it right this time? Let's get started on my review of Fantastic Four First Steps. Let's go. What's going on, all my beautiful people? This is Jacey, and I just got back from watching Fantastic Four First Steps. Before I do get started with my review, please note this will be a spoiler-free review, just in case you haven't seen it yet, currently showing in theaters. Also, please make sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell to stay up to date on more new superhero movies that I'm reviewing just like this. So, Fantastic Four First Steps is the fourth film version of the superheroes that we have seen for years, counting the versions that we got in the early 2000s and also the 90s film version that never actually came out. So this was one of those films that when it was announced, as well as me seeing the previews, I was excited for it, but I didn't have high hopes. Mostly just because Marvel hasn't had the greatest streak other than Thunderbolts, which I will say I was pretty surprised by that one. So I didn't know how this movie was going to be, and I just went into it with an open mind, hoping for the best. And you guys, I gotta say, this is slightly better than Superman in my opinion, and I enjoyed this a lot more than I thought. It is good, really good.
It's good. Really good.
So Fantastic Four First Step stars Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Joseph Quinn, Eben Backrack, and more. So this film took an interesting approach in that it takes place in an alternate version of Earth called Earth 828, where the Fantastic Four are already well-known superheroes and have been for 4 years. I think they did that on purpose. But the movie doesn't waste time explaining every detail. You're thrown into their world right away, which makes it feel fast-paced and exciting, but I love that. Also, one of the things that I enjoyed the most about this film is not only the aesthetic and the look of it, but also you get a strong element of family. And you not only see the chemistry and the dynamic from these four characters, but you also see how these characters are written, and the acting is great all across the board. And I will get into that in a little bit, but I will say those were my favorite things about it, as well as the great balance of drama and comedic moments. One doesn't outweigh the other in this movie, and it was just good to see that, especially from a Marvel film where usually you get more comedic moments. And ironically, Superman actually had a lot more comedic moments than I was expecting. And this one, ironically, had more dramatic weight to it, which I was not expecting. I'm telling you guys, 2025 has been weird so far. So let's get into more of what I liked about this film. Now, with the Fantastic Four, we do get Reed Richards, aka Mr. Fantastic, played by Pedro Pascal, Sue Storm, aka Invisible Woman, played wonderfully by Vanessa Kirby, Johnny Storm, aka the Human Torch, played by Joseph Quinn, and Ben Grimm, aka The Thing, who is played by Eben Backrack. And they are still dealing with life here after gaining cosmic powers. And I love how we got small little exposition, but through TV clips or even certain things that had happened, and also through dialogue, but it's not really one of those ways where we're just kind of getting an exposition dump in the middle of the film or even in the beginning to explain all of it to an audience that honestly, if you know Marvel, you know how they got their powers. But when a mysterious messenger shows up, warning them that something huge and dangerous is coming to destroy their world, aka the Silver Surfer, the team has to face a challenge that might be bigger than anything we've ever seen. And if you guys have seen the trailers, they kind of did spoil it a little bit in there, and I'm not going to say it here, but it's interesting that they went that route, and I didn't know how it was going to be in the film when I had saw that trailer that they released a couple weeks ago, but I did love that element in this movie. And again, with this story, you have big stakes here. It's not one of those movies where it just feels like there's an excuse to make this Marvel film, or a villain that is just kind of lackluster, to say the least. And that's always been my issue with a lot of Marvel films, especially the past couple of phases. We've had some villains that are just not that good. But trust me when I say Galactus, you guys, shows up in here in a big way, and wow, that's how you do it, Marvel. And I'm so glad that we got to see Galactus in here. And what's really cool about this film is that the story stands on its own because it does take place in an alternate universe where the Fantastic Four are the only superheroes there. And it also takes place in New York, but you have that retro feel like it's from the 1960s. The best thing too is it's not tied down by other Marvel movies. The plot feels big, emotional, and even a little risky. And what I mean by a little risky is because you have a deeper story here that feels more personal, and ironically, it doesn't slow things down. Now, let's get into the acting. The cast really delivers here. Pedro Pascal brings brains and awkward charm to Reed Richards, showing us a hero who thinks fast, but sometimes struggles to connect emotionally. I loved his character in here, and I love what Pedro brought to this role. You definitely see more of the smarts that is brought out with this character, and I loved how they put that in this film, because growing up, watching the cartoons, even reading some of the comic books, all those things, I've always thought, man, we don't really see the smart, nerdy side in some of these films. I loved how they emphasize that in here. Now, Vanessa Kirby is amazing as Sue Storm. She's strong, smart, and the emotional heart of the movie, as well as the team. She really shines in a lot of the tougher moments. Joseph Quinn plays Johnny Storm with energy and attitude, but also shows he's smarter than people give him credit for. No knock on Chris Evans' version in the early 2000s films, but a lot of that character seemed a little too overly confident, cocky, honestly showing more muscle than anything, or being a ladies' man. Eben Moss-Bachrach gives Ben Grimm a rough but lovable vibe. I love how those subtle scenes of how he was dealing with his look and things of that nature. And by the way, I had no idea that Natasha Lyonne was in this film. It was nice to see her, and they implement certain scenes in there between her and Ben Grimm, and I really liked that. That was something that you see more with this character that you've never seen before. Now, Julia Garner also steals every scene she's in as a Silver Surfer. I wasn't sure what to feel when I did see the trailers and people were complaining about the CGI, all those things, but for the most part, you guys, the CGI is amazing in here. It's great. Honestly, there was only maybe a couple of times, not with her character, but someone else in particular, where I thought, okay, there's a little bit of CGI, but you really can't tell for most of this film. Even Galactus feels more layered than your typical bad guy. Now, let's get into the action, because one of the complaints a lot of people are saying online is that there's not enough action, but I loved how you got more characterization, you got more story elements in here, and also heavier stakes with the villain compared to all of this action being thrown at you without some of this story. But don't get me wrong, the action in here is good too, even when you do see it. So the action is wild in the best way possible. There are space chases, superpowers on full display, and high stakes fights that really feel like they matter. The most intense parts happen off-world, including a faster than light space race that's full of suspense and amazing visuals. And while the Fantastic Four fight hard, the emotional weight behind their choices makes the battles even more powerful. It's not just about punching villains, it's about saving family, making tough choices, and thinking fast when everything's falling apart. Now, one of the best things about this film, and I have to get into it, is the cinematography, the CGI, and just the overall aesthetic of this film. Visually, this movie is jaw-dropping. Director Matt Shakman, aka the one who gave us WandaVision, gives us a world that's colorful, retro-futuristic, and packed with style. Mixed with sci-fi dreams, flying cars, Earth 828 looks like something from the 1960s. It feels like the Jetsons and even the Incredibles. I got that feeling within the first 30 minutes, and I thought, oh, this is awesome. Somehow it just works. The design team clearly had fun with this world, and you can tell, filling it with little details you'll want to pause and catch. So for sure, you guys should know I'm getting this on 4K as soon as it comes out. Even the costumes, gadgets, and background items help tell the story. This movie may not be the most expensive Marvel film ever, but it might be the best looking one in years that we've gotten. All right, so here's my final thoughts, you guys. Fantastic Four: First Steps is more than just another superhero film. It's a visually rich, emotionally powerful, and thrilling ride from start to finish. The cast is excellent, the action is sharp, and the world feels totally fresh. Now, it may not be perfect, and this is kind of where I get into a little bit of my flaws, but they're more nitpicks than anything. There are some side characters that don't get as much screen time that I wish we would have got just a little bit more of, and there are a couple of times, like I said, where the CGI is just a little wonky, but again, that's just a nitpick. You can barely tell, and I highly encourage you guys to go and watch this in IMAX because it's going to be the best experience for sure with this film. But with those nitpicks aside, the heart, imagination, and style make up for it in a big way. This movie feels like a fresh start for the Fantastic Four and a hopeful step forward for Marvel. With all that being said, you guys, I'm going to give Fantastic Four: First Steps 4.5 flames out of 5 and a super fire film rating.
It's fantastic.
Yes, I was pleasantly surprised by this, and I didn't think I was going to enjoy it a little bit more than Superman, but I for sure did. This movie is a bold, stunning, and surprisingly heartfelt superhero film. But alright guys, so have you seen Fantastic Four First Steps yet? If you have, what did you think of it overall? Let me know in the comments below. Last thing before I do go, please make sure to hit that like, hit the subscribe, hit that notification bell to stay up to date. My name's Jacey, and until next time, I'm out.